don't worry, guys. Your microphone doesn't work, even though the computer's just been on the whole time and it's just stayed plugged in. And now it's too quiet. But don't worry about that because they're making Windows a fully agentic operating system, which I'm sure is going to solve literally all these problems. Oh wait, that was the wrong volume. Where's the fucking microphone volume, dude? Like, don't worry, you can't find the microphone volume, but it's going to be a fully agentic operating system. Look, I have voice speed. Like, microphone, microphone setup. Yeah, that's for this speech thing that literally nobody in the world uses. Like, what is these people's problem? What is these people's problem? Hey, look, it's the one from Windows 98. That's the one that actually works. Hello, hello. All right, we're getting close. Now we only need some decibel juice in here. Hello, hello. Hello, decibels. Okay, that's close enough, maybe. The old panel is gone in the next Windows 11. Are you kidding me? If they take away the old panel, how is anyone going to do anything anymore? Like, that's kind of shocking that they would even consider getting. I mean, to be clear, yes, the old panel shouldn't be there, but it should be because the new panel is better than the old panel, right? But that has never been the case, and I've long given up on that becoming the case. For like 5 or 10 years, you could have been like, well, the new panel isn't that good, but don't worry, they're working on it, man. And at some point you just have to be like, yeah, they're not going to fix it ever. So, you know, um yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's about all you could say about that, right? But don't worry, I'm sure whatever they do is going to be fully agentic. All right, I just gave up my slot for some reason on a YOLO. I felt like doing that. That might have been a lose move right there. We were doing great. Um let's see. Okay, we'll do this. We'll do this. We're doing fine. We're doing fine. Doing fine. That was not a lose move. Who would even suggest that? What kind of negative thinking is that? I mean, we basically won. We just got to do the steps. Well, this obviously goes over here, by the way. Just got to do the steps. Okay. Okay, good start. Good start to the evening. Cool. Cool. We got to do some Bard stuff. We were doing Bard stuff before, like a week or two ago. Wait, did we put it in here? Maybe charming. Oh, I was typing up something in the chat and I saved it accidentally. Okay. So we have this draw maybe charming, and let's just make sure that we're set up in a level where we have a bard and we can see things. So basically, I just want to make it 3D now. So we did this bard effect. You could imagine tweaking it and making it better, but I think the basic effect is sound and can live on into the final game. And so well, here's an example of the current effect. Right? It sort of comes on and off as we switch characters. And that's great. I don't know why it looks chunky right now. Maybe it's my monitor. Does the little ring look chunky when it's fading in or out? Or does it look at least kind of smooth to you guys? Because I think it might actually be the LCD response time on my monitor making it look chunky. I can't think of any other reason when, you know, the frame rate's 30 here, which is not awesome, but it's debug build, right? So it's quantized. It is. Okay, well, that's a different thing we can debug then. Because that does not look like 30 FPS to me. So, okay, we got to figure that out separately. But for now, the goal is going to be, instead of just drawing one ring, we want to be able to draw up to 5. And I hope... Did I make these 1.0? They look too tall. Okay, so sadly, see, I want to like stack these when they go up, and you want them to stack in a way that looks good. And this is probably too high for that. So maybe we adjust if we need to. Whatever. We just, you know, you do it one step at a time. Maybe this is too high anyway. I mean, if you look at... Yeah, maybe that's just too high. I was gonna charm somebody, and then I got high. That's too high, guys. Look at that. Look how high that is. Look how high that is. I mean, it looks best, though, when you're, like, charming a character, because it's kind of going around their head, right? But, like, maybe we just have to make the character charmed graphics better. And it doesn't even look that high. I don't know. We'll play with it. Okay. Regardless, the first thing we need... Oh, I don't want to be on that level, actually. When is the Drod playthrough coming? I played through that game, or I played some of that game many years ago. And it's fine. It's an interesting game. It didn't seem to be that focused. Like the level design in Deadly Rooms of Death, once you've played it for a little bit, is like, well, this is more Deadly Rooms of Death, right? So at some point you're like, okay, I get it. At least that's how I felt. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was just about to spring something super cool on me. Um, okay, we want to be here. Why did we not? I mean, that's in there. Okay, anyway, we're gonna get a bard. We're gonna put her here. Get rid of these characters. We're gonna put a crystal that we could charm high up. Actually, just there, two above. Okay. Actually, though, no. We're going to put it two more above because we want to test the full 3D of the universe. So we're going to give her a place here to just be running around. And then this is going to be higher. Right, like that. Yeah. And then this is going to be lower. And we will continue to tweak as things go. Okay. So right now, I can charm this. Oh, I didn't cam. I could charm this, but the ring doesn't go down. And I can charm this, but the ring doesn't go up. So I'm just going to do that. Also, the ring doesn't go in the right order while it does stuff. That's annoying. When the moon meets your eye, etc. People who have watched the stream know where I'm going with that. Bard effect does not go behind crystal. There's all sorts of stuff that's fucked up. So now the green beam, you can't really see it through the terrain because the new effect, which we had thought we had tuned, is not in fact currently tuned, etc. I'll work on that separately. Still much more readable. Oh yeah, the old one is very unreadable, and it's weird because the reason I spent so long not working on the old one, even though it was so bad, was just like I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do, I guess is what I would say. Yeah, this one being high up, it kind of makes it unreadable because now you kind of want to look at the bottom line and match it to the grid, but it's floating high enough above the grid that you can't totally tell. So we do need to move it down. Like I was just like, I don't know, maybe we're gonna do a particle thing. I thought about things where you draw a border like this, and I thought about musical themes, but for some reason, I never thought about the border actually being sheet music themed. I just didn't put the peanut butter and the chocolate together in that way. And then once I had that idea, I was like, okay, that's enough motivation to just sit down and program it. Yeah. But before that, I was like, I don't know, I guess it's one of the, when you're making a game, there's an infinitely long list of like stuff we got to figure out eventually, right? And that was just sort of in that list. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to spam the code. We're just going to draw 5 of these things on top of each other at all times. And then once that's working, we will turn them on and off contextually. So we want to show this one by default as you're walking around. And then if something becomes charmed off the 2D plane, we can enable and disable the layers for that. I think of having the enemy energy emanating from the bard be particles flowing away from her. I mean, I don't care that much about that right now. I needed to do something. I think it's a little too strong of an effect right now, honestly. But I just needed to do something in there, and I did that. Like, so I think my preference would be to turn it down so that it's very, very much more subtle, at least. Maybe turn it off. I mean, I think that's a better effect for like the priestess than the bard, probably. Think it would be a cool way to add 3D-ness. I mean, the thing is, we've tried doing some 3D-ness with particles. It just doesn't work that well. That's actually one of the things that I was kind of demoralized about. I was like, I just don't know how I'm going to make this good. And then as soon as I tried this, I was like, okay, that can be good. All right, so we're going to go here. We're going to go here. I need to get a new drink. I need to get a drink. All right. But I guess we're going to factor all of this into a function. So let's just do that. That'll be step 1. We're going to draw bard note quads or whatever radius. Draw bard radius. The shader is called bard radius, so it's good if you keep your names. We're going to say draw bard radius at offset of 0 beyond whatever our offsets normally are. All right. And then the whole thesis of this programming language is it's not too bad to just do an inline function. Although this is so much. We're actually not going to, this is so much code that it would just be more confusing to just indent it all and whatever. I mean, look at all this. Okay, so all of this is going to be in draw bard radius, and we're just going to put it down here. Okay. So we need a center. I see that. Okay, Z strut. Radius quads. Let's just put straight up, do this. So this is going to be center Z strut radius quads. You know what? Instead of adding a Z offset, we're going to do this. Okay, so I'm probably missing a number of other things. Okay, we didn't close the function. You got to close the function, guys. Okay, num segments. You know what? We'll just do this. Radius quad. Okay. You know what? Let's do this then. VP. D theta. I mean, this can just be constant. Get super quadric point. Square radius. Wait. Okay, I see. I factored more into here than I thought. It's fine. All right, we'll pass that in as well. U time offset. That texture. I. Oh. Right, we need to put all this in here because we're drawing multiple layers. So does this end with a flush? It doesn't. It really should. A lot of parameters. This was expected, though. It's how it is when you move a big chunk of thing. So now we're up to colors. Strobe is color phase fast. Okay. Ooh, I'm really wanting that drink right now. Strobe. Oh, color phase fast. Sure is a lot of parameters, ain't it? Hey, we got it. Sneeze sounded painful. It was kind of a normal sneeze. Am I in the wrong variables file? Yep. That's why we're not loading into the right level. This is the one that we want. Okay, here we go. Reset. We're drawing the thing. It's exactly the same as before. But that is successful. That means that we have done our job currently. And we can now proceed to step 2, which is the following. It's very small to go from this to 4i 0 to 4. We're going to subtract 2. We could go -2 to 2. I don't know. Let's do that just for funsies. Z offset is -1.0 times I. New center is center. New center position.z plus equals z offset. New center. Oh, that's not a dot position situation. It's just a dot z. Hey. Now that's kind of confusing, hard to read, but it also makes it very clear that I can just grab this guy. I mean, kind of, to draw order issues notwithstanding. Right? I mean, we should have different musical notes on each level and all these things, but you see how easy it is to program sometimes. It's like we just chat GPT'd that and totally one-shotted it. All right, drink grab, and then we need to offset this downward. We need to, generally speaking, make sure that these line up with the squares, which they don't currently. We want it to be readable when you're looking down like this. I want to be able to tell see how, like, if you look at the bottom one that you can see the whole thing of, it's like the top row of the one below that that's going into the ground is the actual readable one in terms of, you know, where the grid squares is. So we need to go down by approximately 0.2. Now also, though, see, there's complications, guys. There's complications. We need to figure this out. So if this is actually extended octaves of some music, then, okay, first of all, you will note that I pre-planned and did a good job. And it's evenly spaced. So you probably can't tell this exactly, but between any two of these, it's like a 2-line spacing, right? The problem is that doesn't necessarily make sense from a musical notation standpoint. Because you want to be on exactly the next octave. So, like, should we draw these like bigger? Only draw if there's an object that far away vertically. Yeah, that's the plan. So the plan would be that all these rings have adjustable fades on them, except, you know, the main ground level ring would stay on as long as the Bard is active, right? But so we wouldn't really draw any 3D. I mean, we could detect if you're one square away and sort of start to fade it in. But for now, the easiest thing to do code-wise is if if you're actually charming someone in a particular Z layer, then we turn that one on. Otherwise, we turn it off, right? Um, and we can do that in the next step. But the point is, if we want it to fictionally be a continuous thing of sheet music, what do we do? It could be a different music for every layer. I literally already said that. It doesn't make sense to have the same music for every layer because all right. Let me get a drink and we'll turn the layers on and off. First, we're gonna like hard set them on or off because that's how you just check that your criterion for turning them on and off is correct. And then we can, fade them in and out smoothly. You were AFK, aren't we all? Dynamically adjust the height and envelope. The thing is, like we could have just one ring, but like you can charm multiple things. So one ring going up and down doesn't make sense. But B, even if you're charming something really far below, I think you just want the reference at ground level also. Like when you're playing the bard, it's just like a thing that there's a 5x5 square that you're like moving around. And you want to be very clear about that. And having that on the ground level where the bard is, I think is probably the most beautiful thing. Okay. Anyway, so let's do two things. One, let's go to draw bard radius and chill on. Okay, actually, we passed the center in. I bet we offset it out here, don't we? Center. So we add 0.15, which is, let's not add anything. Okay. So now we're not adding anything. It'll be lower than it was. So we're going to say layer enabled. Let's do this. Let's go back to this. And the reason is because we're going to want an array index. And it's just, if you see that, yeah, okay. Let's do this. We're going to do this. We're going to go layers enabled 2 equals true. And then get charmed entities. Okay. Okay, enable layers if there's charmed stuff there. So we do this, we get the charmed entities. For found, DZ is this is not called E guy, this is called E. E dot position actually it dot position dot z minus E dot position dot z floor, just for mathematical accuracy, right? Okay, and then we do that, and then we go if not enabled, continue. Okay, we're going to move all this code in a minute when we make it smoothly interpolate. But if you can't even do that now, all right, here we go. Okay, it's already not working. What? Okay. Our DZ is +2. Duh. Duh, 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 duh. All right. Reset. Here we go. Okay, now it's backwards. Now it's backwards. We'll get it right one of these days. Wait, if it dot position dot z minus E dot position dot z is 2, that means it's 2 above me. So we add 2, that's index 4. Oh, when we did them... Bro! What? I don't know why I put a minus there. I put a minus there because I was thinking about going from -2 to 2. Minus 50 DKP minus. All right, so now we've got the bottom one. Now it's gone. Now we've got the top one. See that? Look at that. Look at that. We one-shot it. Okay, so fortunately for us, to already do all this other Bard effect stuff, there is already a data structure that stores consistent values across frames. And we will just go to that. And we're not even gonna, again, we're not gonna try to make it smooth yet. We're just gonna move the code there. So we're gonna put this array on the Bard structure. It's still gonna be Booleans so that everything is like, you know, dude, this is so much more playable. It's still gonna be Booleans. We're just gonna move the code, get it to compile, and then we'll make it smooth. So, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go Bard particles. So Bard emitting particles. It's maybe not the best name, but this is yeah, this is the thing. And then there's a per frame update for this. So I mean, I guess we should update these layers separately and then we'll multiply the active T in the end, right? So for both of these though, if not done, update the layer uh, activation levels. Okay, so we're back here. Going to be like, and you know what? This make charmed guy particles also does this find. I'm just going to pass that in. So instead of found, I'm going to do this. No, oh, don't remove. See, we're destructively modifying this thing. That's potentially confusing. Let's just do this. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, we're just going to copy these, but we're going to do the find. It's probably not at all faster to do that. But there's something coherent about just like making sure that you're using really the same information. Okay, and then do that. Okay. Okay, so we're getting rid of that. Oh. Oh, right. All this goes up here. We can return here. Okay. Charmed entities. We get the charmed entities. Down here, it's no longer called found. It's called charmed entities. Um, so this, we could using this, but I'm just going to do this. Nope, nope, nope. Wrong one. Okay. What? Oh. Get turn order ID of guy. Just going to put all this together at the beginning. Okay. So now we still have this code in draw. Oh, we still got this. Okay, so here, do we have the BEP? Yes. So just going to do that. Okay. Easy clap. Reset. Hey, look. Hey, look. It's exactly the same as before, but the code is in a different place. Because the code is in a different place, we can now do some more stuff. So, we're going to go music layer is a struct. I'm going to put it outside because why not? We're going to have T target is a float. T current is a float. Actually, there's no reason. Yeah, whatever. We're going to call this layer states. Call it music layers. I don't know. Like, there's something about just like using the same name. Okay, and we're going to say alpha is bep.active_t times layer alpha. Layer dot t current. All right. We're going to pass layer alpha. Okay. So we've got these music layers. They're not called layers enabled. Dot t target equals 0 may be overridden below. I mean, we could just set 0, 1, 3, and 4, right? Okay. We're gonna actually this can be right back here. Bep dot, let's say move toward layer dot t current, layer dot t target, rate up, rate down dt. I think that's move toward. We're using a different move toward overload. Hold on. DT rate up, rate down. It's a problem because they're all floats. And so if you put them in the wrong order, you become very sad. Okay. Rate up is 5. Rate down is actually, rate up is 3. Rate down is 5. DT is manager, gameplay DT. Do we have manager? Yeah. Music layers equals true. Yes, we cannot do that. Dot T target equals 1. All right. Okay. Here we go. Reset. Look at that. Pro. That is professional. So much more playable. That's the funny thing is like you can go a very long time with like agony and then it just isn't that hard. And like, so the thing about, okay, this is one of the secrets of game design, guys. All right. I may have said this before, but I don't think I've said it in a long time. In every game design, there's some stuff that works way better than you thought it ever would. There's other stuff that is kind of marginal, right? And it helps tremendously to leverage techniques on the things that are marginal. So here's, in this game, in principle, the Bard is super interesting, and the Bard adds a lot to the game, right? But gameplay-wise, from the beginning, we were aware that, the Bard is somewhat frustrating to play. Because because it's about affecting things you didn't want to affect, which can be a little frustrating, and it's about being stuck in a lot of the original Heroes of Sokoban levels, and that's not fun. And so we did a bunch of things to try to deal with this. One of them is, let's try and redesign all these Bard levels and make them not be about being stuck all the time. A little bit of being stuck as the Bard is maybe fine, but like at some point it's just enough, right? So we do that. But also another thing that you can do is just do what you can to make it feel nicer while you're doing it. And that actually goes a significant way toward making that gameplay mechanic feel more fun. It's just how it is. And so the secret of game design is to just know what are the weaker points of your game and try to address it mechanically if you can. But to the extent that you can't, production value will actually help, right? Production value will help you make it better. This is still too high. Or is it? Do we want a line right at the top? See, the thing is, I'm looking and I guess it's pretty obvious what the squares are. It's just maybe not as aligned as I would like. I'm going to try moving it down a little bit. I don't know why it's up. Sounds like we will not have the game in 1 year. Well, make the Bard levels prettier than the others. Yeah, I mean, that's also very hard for us because, you know, we do have limited art bandwidth, although it's less limited than it was. But yeah, like when levels are hard, you got to help people's brains out for sure. Set up something so we could see one on a single layer lower. A single layer lower. Let's do both of that. So let's do and then well, that might be nutty for a different reason. We'll put this one like isolated in here. All right. So Well, let's actually, because we want these to be independent of each other. All right. So that's one layer lower. I would say that we want more visibility down there, right? I mean, it's still too high. Like the fact that we see the line of the next one in each case. That's weird because wasn't that how it was before? And then I thought I subtracted 0.2. Okay, this is weird. Now it's broken all of a sudden. What? Okay. So part of it was we had save state with that crystal inner wall. So we get rid of that. Now maybe it's making sense. Although, no, see here? This is weird. This is... right. So those took a long time to fade in for whatever reason. I don't know what was going on there. That was weird. Yeah, I think we got to move them down some more. Subtle things where a mechanic could be cool, but it makes an annoying noise. Players don't like it. Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, those of us who have been in the games industry a while have heard of stories about like first-person shooters, especially multiplayer, where like you change the sound effects on the gun to be beefier and everyone swears the weapon was buffed, right? And they like it a lot more. It just, these things, they just really matter. And so, I mean, again, here's the thing. It's good to be an indie developer. Indie developers are often creative people making interesting things. However, the so-called community of indie developers is prone to a lot of diseases. And one of the diseases is this self-delusion that's like, well, because we don't have a lot of money to make our games with, and therefore we can't do expensive production value stuff, we're going to choose to believe that there's this whole thing about game design that's totally separate from how things look or sound or feel. And as long as that design is good, then the game is good, and it won't actually be better if you give it better graphics or better sound. And that's just obviously untrue. It obviously becomes better with better graphics and better sound. But people gaslight themselves into thinking that's not true. They gaslight themselves into like, oh, it's noble to have terrible graphics and sound because it's indie. And it's like, well, I mean, no, it's fine. It's fine to be indie and to develop things on a lower budget, and that can enable you to focus on creativity, and it can open up all these doors that wouldn't necessarily be open for people with higher budgets, right? And all that's good. But that doesn't mean bad graphics are good. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a different statement. It's a different statement. But I've gotten into arguments like that's I think the original reason why the indie developers on Twitter decided to start hating me was I was saying stuff like that, and they just, it was very anathema to everything they wanted to believe. Like if you have like indie developers circa 2010, 2011, if you have a really cool game design, so in this game, we based the stuff in the beginning off of existing games like Heroes of Sokoban and all that, right? Those designs are really interesting, but they're also kind of unplayable by normal people. Like, you're asking people to bridge a pretty big gap to get to the place where they can see and understand why your thing is so interesting and cool, right? And good graphics and good game feel and better designed, more understandable levels and all these things are ways of going to meet people where they are so that you're not asking quite so much of them. You know what I'm saying? And that probably, maybe, hopefully means more people can appreciate your game. Like, if you're making the game because you want to show people cool stuff, it's probably better, all things considered, if more people can appreciate the cool stuff. And again, that's fraught with peril because on the one hand, the community of indie developers will be like, oh, that's the same as selling out, right? And it's not. But on the other hand, if you want to sell out, then that's exactly the excuse you would tell yourself, is that you're just trying to help more people appreciate the game, right? So it's nuanced, it's complicated. This has been Indie Game Philosophy Theater. There's an example from a Wolfenstein enemy territory where not only did everyone swear the gun was more powerful, they actually were statistically scoring more kills with the gun because they would play more risky since they thought it was better. Yep. Video games. Video games. All right, we got to get this at the right Z coordinate. It's got to go down. I don't understand why it's up. Instead of just subtracting an arbitrary value like ChatGPT would do, we need to figure out why it's up in the first place, because the character position should be right in the middle of this tile where her feet are. Bro, the geometry on the feet's backwards. What the hell? Is that the outline? That can't be the outline. Oh, I guess it is. Look, you zoom out and it's not like that anymore. Okay, the outline shader is going crazy. All right. So where is this happening? Not here, in the drop, most likely. Okay, so get super quadrant point. Let's make sure this doesn't offset things in Z. It does return a vector 3, but it's got a 0 in the Z coordinate. And we're scaling the vectors, which means we can't add anything to that 0. Okay. So we get the super quadrant point. So that's got a 0 for the Z. We add center. We do all this stuff. So it looks to me like center is getting stuff added twice, right? New center plus Z offset. That should be 0. We can just log what these are to make sure. There could be all sorts of other weird stuff, like our frickin' shader might be adding some values to the vertices. Like you don't know exactly. All right, so where does center come from? Visual position plus current world wrap offset. Does it get modified? No, except for this Z offset. Okay, we're just going to log this. Well, we'll go here. So these should be 1.0 off from each other. And they should be on even floats. And if they're not, we know something is going on there. And then when we actually go to draw this, right? maybe we missed something, right? Let me just make sure. Yeah. So when we use this to get this quad, we're going to go did it change? Did it change since we logged it? I feel like we're not going to see anything wrong here. But who knows? Okay. 3. See that? It's at 3. Look how high above 3 that is, dude. Okay. That could just be the bottom margin of the texture. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. What is our Z strut? This is computed based on the texture height and all of this. Yeah, okay. So, okay. We've confirmed that there's no offset. We're going to add a manual offset. And we're just going to eyeball it. We're just going to compile, edit, debug till we get it, because it's only going to be a few. So the deal is, I sized this based on like we have a texture that's 1024 by 128 or something, and we don't want to stretch it. So the quad is like sized that way. It's not necessarily set up to not go into the ground. Okay, so this is right near the ground. Now, of course, our notes are going into the ground. But maybe that's fine. Oh, maybe they're not. Really? Okay. Okay. I mean, this seems better, right? It's about... We look at where it's landing in here. There's a margin on top. The margin on bottom is a little bigger still. That probably won't... Any asymmetry there won't matter that much, probably in real levels, because there's variability. But look, I can look. The bottom bar is almost where the grid line is. Dude. What is... Why are we diving to 8 FPS? When we do this. Whatever we're doing, the immediate mode renders or something are just chewing GPU. In debug build? I don't know. That seems pretty nasty on it. We must have added a lot more debug stuff lately, because we're not really drawing anything here. And the fact that debug mode is like 23 milliseconds. Yeah, we must be doing something. Anyhow. I don't love the 8 FPS. We'll make a release build in a second so we could play around. Oh, we still got our rock in the wall. That's not great. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, this is. Oh, we're still logging, I think, because I didn't rebuild. I mean, this is to a first approximation shippable to the playtesters now. We want to make sure it works with character switching and all that. But didn't I just add some logging? I deleted it. Yeah. It's just I think I didn't recompile. Okay. This offset of z equals minus 0.15 is a non-precisely typed in value that empirically gets us kind of close to the music staff being low, texture being low, enough to the ground that you can use the bottom line as a proxy to match up against the game grid. Yeah. Like 1024 by 128, and we don't want it to stretch, so there isn't. Let's just stop the explanation there. Okay. Okay. Now we might just be doing so many freaking immediate quads that instead we want to make a procedural mesh later and render that, but we can assign that out to someone else out on the team if we want to. Like, we're rendering these in the slowest way. We're hitting 60 here. It's, we're testing the look of it, and yeah, this is going to be way more playable. And this is another thing I didn't have an answer to, which is like, oh, even if you do a good effect for the 2D levels, you don't want that to be a giant box because it'll like spoil things and it's also irrelevant and harder to read. But then what do you do when you get to the more complex 3D levels? And the answer is, well, you can just turn it on like that when you get. And again, we could also once this is checked in and tested, we could add some stuff, like if you're 1 square away from something you could charm, maybe we would, you know, do a little bit of a, like maybe have the notes not be there, but the lines be there, but like only kind of faded in, you know? Right, I mean, I think we ship it, and then I could go dancing tonight. We just had a big time. I don't know what to call it. I would call it a sprint, but that would make you think I was a Java programmer. We just had a big time where we've got something approximately done, and it'll be done by midday tomorrow. That was, you know, important to do. So I'm kind of also in a chill rest. It's great to have done this. We one shot. Yeah, like I said, there's still a few more things, like it should go behind the crystal, not in front of the crystal. Um, and then there's also the question of water. All right, so this is not going to look right either. Um, let's load this level. I'm going to assign these to somebody else because these are things that other people on the team can do. And it's not necessary for me to do them all. But in some levels, we have a bard and we have crystals in the water, right? And that is also not going to quite work right because you're going to see that? It's like it's going into the ground there, but it's not drawing underwater. So I'm going to assign that out to somebody. But we'll ship the beta. We'll ship the beta without it because I still think it's much more playable. That's another thing to take care of. Did I want to check the weird temporal quantization thing? Ah, good point. Okay. Let us, however, take the W for what we have done. And then we will do that. That's a very informative comment. In it. In it. When is the beta shipping? Well, it's not shipping to you. By beta, I mean not public. A single player puzzle game is not generally going to have a beta. Because once you played the puzzles, you played the game. It's not like Arc Raiders or something. Okay, all right. So let's. There's at least two things that could be going wrong. It could be that we're computing the radius as an integer. Or it could be that the time is quantized for some reason that we don't expect. So, or something else, or one of the functions we're calling is in a really low accuracy regime for some reason. When we call drawbar radius, we have square radius. So we're just going to log can't type. So we're going to do that. No. Well, okay, let's. So we were at FPS, at 8 FPS sometimes, right? Is that what it's called? It's time wrapped. That could be another thing. Our thing to wrap time might be messing things up. So let's take the pane from LLVM. We'll make a full build. We're going to see if we see quantization. Now, we are logging, which will also tank our frame rate because the console on Windows is super slow. Super slow. So we want a character. We can switch back and forth. So here it looks pretty smooth. So this might have just been an 8 FPS situation. However, what I will say is I am seeing the same things twice, but that might be because we're doing this twice per frame. So for example, yeah, see, like the water reflections show this. So that might be where the other time is. We could set a breakpoint if we really want to validate that. I mean, it looks fine in release build, so let's go back to debug build. I'm tempted to think it's very rare that something is right in release build and wrong in debug build. It does happen. Very rare. Well, unless you have a variable that like is being uninitialized to 0. See, even now it's like I'm not seeing that. But we're also at 50 FPS again. So this is what was so weird. Wait, did we actually run? Yeah, we ran debug. There's just something weird happening in debug sometimes. Let's see if we can get that to happen. I mean, what was it? Like, well, we were like over here and we had crystals. We had beams on the screen. I don't know. Oh, I mean, I don't know really, right? Not happening now. Yeah, I'm inclined to think it was frame rate. So we're going to ship this to the people. Which means we're going to Benny test and play cards. Come up with my own OS. I mean, here's what I would say. I kind of would love to do an operating system. I also just can't right now. Like, I can't personally do it. If I did, it would mean I would never make games again, right? So, well, I don't know for sure that it would mean that, but it's quite possible. So, if somehow I get, again, an extra $20 million that I don't need or something like that, I would consider running an OS project that I didn't personally program in if I could find people who were good enough to do it, which is a big if, right? But I just can't do it anytime soon. It's too much. I promised last year I'll at least make a toy version. I'm allowed to change my mind about stuff. All right, Benny test. Dude, this is so slow. Also, Benny test is going too slow. Boom. All right. Is it going? It's going. All right. Benny in the test. Dun, dun, dun. Oh no! Well, we're going to run this in debug build. It's probably just in that code that I just did. Speaking of Benny in the test, I was at a cafe today and whatever music there. Dude! Okay, ready? Click. Did you see how long that was? That was like a full second. Here, I'm going to put the mouse near the microphone so you can hear when I click, all right? Ready? That was faster, but it was still like a half a second. Unbelievable. It's so hard to use, dude. All right, we're going to Benny test in debug build. Oh, you know what? Let's we have this radius logging in there. Let's take that out. We'll run. Chances are very good that we will hit the same assert. Relatively quickly, though not as quickly as we did before, and we'll just see where we're at. Okay, 1098, that's for free. That's for free. 7-6. 5. Okay. But 14, 13 are fighting. 14 on the queen, 14 on the queen. I think we just have to do that. Like, sometimes I don't think that hard about some of these, but I gotta do them. Alright, that's free. I don't have sound turned on for me, so I can't tell. Did we assert yet? We got it. Hold on though. Let's do a couple cards. This is free as well. Like this one is kind of a gimme so far, which I'm not complaining about. I've had enough brutally difficult rounds of this that I don't mind when it's kind of easy. What happened at the cafe with the song? Well, nothing happened. It's just one of those songs from like the 70s that you heard all the time in the 70s and not now. Disco Inferno. Yeah, well that's definitely one of them. Although, I mean, Disco Inferno was like I want to say that was like a fast follow of like Staying Alive and stuff. Like Staying Alive with John Travolta dancing around was the actually popular thing, right? What do we do here? Did I watch Pluribus? I have watched it so far. Um, I'm apparently not brainwashed like everyone who says it's the greatest TV show ever made. I think it was maybe interesting in the beginning, but it's just getting kind of slow and bad now. Like Pluribus episode 4, like literally almost nothing happened. Um unless unless you think left-wing virtue signal points count as things happening in a TV show, in which case, oh, there was plenty of virtue signals there. There was at least three big ones. So maybe that's why people love it. They're like, "Oh my god, the entire beginning of the episode was someone from South America who doesn't even speak English. Never mind that we already know everything they spent 10 minutes doing. He's from South America and he doesn't speak English." Yeah, it's like you got to keep these TV shows in perspective, right? So there's been 4 episodes of Pluribus, right? Which I think they're close to an hour each, 50 minutes, right? So that's, 200 minutes, which is at least 2 feature-length films, right? So you could have watched Star Wars plus Empire Strikes Back, but imagine you hadn't seen them and it's when they came out. Or you could watch Pluribus episodes 1 through 4, right? It's just incredibly slow and diluted. But that's how all these TV shows are. Have I seen or read Colossus: The Forbidden Project? I saw that on when I was a kid or something, and then I forgot everything about it, and then I watched it again like 10 years ago or something. Better Call Saul was slow. Yeah, dude, I like Bob Odenkirk, and I couldn't watch Better Call Saul for more than like 2 episodes. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But everyone's like, oh my God, Pluribus is the greatest TV show ever made. We got to do something here. I mean, it is a pretty funny concept, right? It's a pretty funny concept to have a show that's like, what would it be like if we accidentally downloaded an alien bioweapon that made everybody on Earth gay? Like, that's okay. Nobody's done that before. But then it hasn't gone anywhere. You think I'm joking, but that's what the show is. Literally, the first episode has dudes making out because of the alien bioweapon, and I'm not making that up. They went out of their way to do that. Would we entertain an interface that someone like you could plug in and use a different backend to output things? So the way that we're approaching this is that from your meta program, because it's actually very, very hard to provide a consistent compiler backend output without freezing the compiler, because there's implementation details that change all the time. But from a meta program, you have the state of the program as it exists in the middle of the compiler anyway, with like all the procedures and type checked and all that. And then you can output whatever you want. So right now, for example, you could transpile to C or really transpile to Rust if you wanted to, you know, from just the meta program. And that's the plan for how that kind of interfacing would go in the near future. Can pop yellow 2 and 3. Where's 2? 2. I don't know. 7, 6, 5 over here. 8 on the 9. Red 9. Where does red 9 go? Red 9 up, 2 on the 3, red 9 down. I mean, that works, but we lose our slot, right? Unless I'm missing something. Then you could trade green king for red 9. But then green king is eating our slot. Oh, but the 9-8 goes on the 7-6-5. But then red king's eating and 4. I mean, I just don't feel like that's a good idea, but I don't have a better idea, so I'm going to YOLO it. I'm going to YOLO it because we got to go debug before I go out dancing and stuff, right? So we're going to go here, 8, 7, 6, 5, like that. All right, so now the question is, how do we not lose the game from here? Do I entertain suggestion on the language syntax by the email? No. I mean, I'm not that interested in language syntax. I'm the wrong person to talk to about that. I don't care about syntax. Which is not to say it's not important. Like, programming language syntax is important. It's just because it's the easiest thing to talk about. It's like it's like the only thing anybody ever talks about, right? And so things that I consider much more important get ignored essentially. And so I just and because it's relatively easy to do syntax, I'm just not that interested. But it's also, if you're just getting into programming languages, it is naturally going to be the thing that you think about a lot because it's just what's obvious to people is the syntax. So it's not like I'm blaming people for wanting to think about syntax either. It's just, I think it's a weak spot. It's like it's a big rat hole. Okay, how do we save this situation? Gold 9, 8 on 10 or something. I mean, like, there's some stuff that has to happen. This is not a run, for example. And how do you make that work anyway? But, you know, I mean, right, you lift this, you put 10 through 5 here, you put queen on the king. You still don't have space to flip this through. This does not seem very good, if I'm being honest. This does not seem like where we want to be. Do I entertain suggestion via the email? Via the email. This feels like we're dead. Like I see a lot of sequences of a couple moves that we could do, but then we get log jammed. Right? Right? This looks like we're dead. We YOLO'd. We didn't have to YOLO, but we'd just been sitting here talking for a while. So, at some point you got to YOLO. All right. Let's debug. Immediate flush. Draw may be charming. We didn't. Oh, I guess it wants us to call immediate begin here. That's weird. I didn't think we had to do that. But maybe it matters in certain contexts. Like again, I don't love that this is a soft error. Like I would much rather have it be like, bro, you did not call immediate begin. Hard error. All right. So we're going to run this again in debug. And we're just going to go past, I believe it was like on level number 25 in the Benny test sequence. So if we get to like 35 and it hasn't happened, we'll recompile the release build and then we'll run it again. Mention that OS shouldn't let programs access the file system. What's the model for that? Well, that was one. So there's a lot of different ideas that we would toss around when talking about an operating system. I'm not sure that that's the most important one, but that's a security related idea. And the idea is just look, instead of the default being like what Unix and Windows do, which is everybody can see all the files and then if you remember, you kind of set up some permissions um, to prevent file access, right? If what it really is we're in this world where there's like all this stuff from the web running on your computer all the time anyway, and like programs as it turns out, programs actually don't really want to access that many files that they didn't come installed with. Then it's a different security model that is much more secure by default to just have programs have their own like sandboxed file space. And then they could probably read some common system config files or whatever, right? Maybe they could read, a user folder that has dot files, but anything else, like you wouldn't just be able to go read another program's files. And that would automatically like why are you running all these antivirus programs? Like making sure that they don't snoop files and stuff when like you just make it work that way by default, right? So that's one idea. Now that's actually I don't think the most important idea that I've talked about with people, but If you cared about security, you would do things that way, right? Like the thing is, we're building on all these systems that were designed in the days before computers were even connected to each other, right? And so 50 years later, we should have different ideas about how to do it. It would be more shocking if we didn't have different ideas how to do it. What would I say is the most interesting idea? So, I mean, I think a modern operating system does not do the Unix philosophy at all. I think it doesn't use pipes like Windows also uses, right? I mean, Windows like kind of fakes pipes, but this pipe idea sounded good, but it's really not good, right? So, um, oh, I just remembered one of these levels is broken. Okay, wait, we got way further than I said. So let's make the release build. Um, nowhere to smash is still broken. That's still going to be broken in this build, but I'll hopefully fix it tomorrow. Um, anyway, what you should do. So people have this weird idea that I guess is kind of seductive that an operating system should pretend like all these external resources are accessed in the same way. So, like a file and a console input stream and a network connection and device status on Unix, right? You have like slash dev for all these things. Um, those should all be the same interface and you just read from that. And the problem is that sucks and causes a lot of problems and it creates a huge amount of internal complexity because everyone has to have drivers for that thing, right? So, firstly, don't pretend like these are all the same thing because it doesn't work anyway. Like, if I write a program that's just going to read from a file that's known to be on disk, just the loop that reads that file is going to be super different from the code that like reads a network connection in a multiplayer game server, despite the fact that the operating system is going through all this pain to pretend like they're both the same resource. I don't want that because it doesn't actually work. So you write different code for both of those cases anyway. So firstly, acknowledge that those things are different and just treat them in the simplest possible way. And then secondly, at the bottommost level, everything should be a non-blocking command buffer interface where you fill out command buffers and you submit them. And then if you want a blocking interface on top of that, like fread, then, programs can choose to interface in that way. But the bottom level interface is asynchronous. It's very fast and it uses shared memory to transport data instead of some model where you copy data into the kernel and back out of the kernel, right? And then the other part of it is if you're going to correspond with a device, maybe there is a security handshake where the kernel validates that you have permission to use that device, right? Like, can I write to this network port or whatever, right? But once you have that, you shouldn't go through the kernel at all, right? So once you've exchanged a secure key with the device or whatever, hash code, it could 64-bit hash, doesn't really matter, right? Once you've done that, then you should just be able to send messages to the device without the kernel being in the middle, right? All of that would be the design of my operating system. Ryan Fleury threw around an idea of having programs expose multiple endpoints so the flame graph visualizer program can register stuff that the sampling profile and instrumenting profiler can use. Yeah, well, here's the other thing I would say, right? Maybe this is like what Ryan said. I don't know. I've never talked to him about this. But if you look on something like Unix, there's an incredible amount of complexity that's just redundancy that's not needed. So for example, you have static libraries and dynamic libraries. Why? Because static libraries were invented first, and then we made dynamic libraries, but we were like, oh, old code isn't going to be position independent. So, and if it is, there's a performance hit for that. So we're going to have dynamic libraries that are a different thing, right? But then we do ASLR on all the code anyway. So it doesn't fucking matter and everything's dynamic anyway. And there's no performance hit to position independent. So first of all, get rid of those. You just have dynamic libraries. They could be statically linked, but it's the same thing either way. Second, why do you have a program like grep installed on your machine, and yet you can't call a function from C that will search a string for another string in a fast way, right? Like that's stupid because that code is on your system. It's in the middle of grep, right? Like why can't you just use it? So like, yeah, why is your executable program and your library a different thing? Or conversely, why if you have a library, can you not just run the library and get a test of the code? Right? So like libraries and executables should not really be different probably. And you can just like simplify out all this crap. Shouldn't the code be in a library and actually use the executable as a runtime entry point? I mean, the point is like, why have a bunch of separate units? Like, are you somehow saving disk space or memory by not loading the tiny amount of executable that would go along with the library? You're not even doing that because it would get paged out anyway, right? So, like, why there's just too much shit. Like the reason Linux is the same operating system as it was in 1992 with some small improvements and then also a bunch of complete travesties like systemd, right? The reason is because it's just too complicated. It didn't used to be too complicated, but people just kept, rather than making it more and more functional, people just kept making it more and more complicated at the same level of functionality. All right. Approximately. There have been slow improvements. And so like nobody can get anywhere with it, right? Like in order to make progress, you have to reduce the complexity level. That is the problem that is to be solved. Now that said, a lot of the complexity is just having 17 different ways to do everything and nobody knows what's going on. If you just deleted 6 out of 17 ways to do things, Linux would improve dramatically. But nobody there understands that, so they don't do it. Right? Because like they're just not engineering minded. Like I don't know. Like they would rather have trivial choice about which way things should be broken. They would rather have that than have a working system. Anyway. Isn't Linux easier to work with since it's open? No, it's harder to work with because it's just hard to make things work. The theory Yes, the intent, the theory is that it's easier to do things with because it's open, but that's like not actually the way anything works, really. Like things are easier when they're easier and they're harder when they're harder. Mind repeating. I don't remember where to repeat from, honestly. And I've said that rant before, so whatever. Can't people just use like really good AI now and figure out what the fuck I was saying while the volume was high? I thought AI solved everything. Why System D is bad. No, I wasn't really. I just mentioned System D as being terrible. Um, but basically, what I'm saying is Linux didn't make hardly any progress in the entire time I've been using it, which is 33 years, 34 years, something like that. Like it's literally the same operating system that I used with small improvements that don't matter for the most part. And the reason why is because the people making the decisions in user space are not really engineering minded. Like they're not managing the complexity budget. And so just the complexity just keeps going up and up and up until it can't anymore. But functionality doesn't go up, just complexity goes up, is what I was saying. I probably said it better the first time, but you know. Do I think a hardware ISA that covers CPU, GPU, IO, etc. would make building this OS easier? Not really. I mean, instruction sets is not really my department, but I don't think that any of what I'm talking about depends on instruction sets in any way. Obviously, you could have better instruction sets and worse ones, but also I would be highly skeptical of anyone telling me that a CPU and GPU should have the same instruction set. That doesn't make any sense to me because those machines are very different from each other. What would be a good IPC method for a new OS? What does IPC mean? The software world is full of frauds. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though. The software world was always full of frauds in the following sense that even when I was in college and surrounded by people who really didn't know very much compared to what I know now, including me back then, right? We all thought we were smarter than we were, or no, that's not the right way to say it, because we were all smart. We all thought we knew more than we really did, is how I should say it, right? And that just leads you to talk a certain way and, hand wave away certain kinds of problems and whatever. But that's also like part of being a better programmer is like you overextend yourself in terms of how much braggadocio you have or something, and then something happens and you're like, oh wow, I really wasn't able to do as good of a job on that thing as I thought I was. And then if you're actually smart, you realize that you need to recalibrate some of your beliefs in some way. And that's how programmers become good. And so it's not that surprising if we turn up the volume, much like the game on this computer was. But now we're talking about just the internet. Um, you're you're just going to hear most of the people, and there's just like a bell curve, right? Like most people are not at a very high level of attainment at any particular skill. So the people you hear the loudest, no matter what it is, are not going to be the most accomplished people usually, unless the loudness comes with proof of accomplishment, like sports stars or whatever, right? Although that's not like, you don't really listen to advice from a sports star about like how to hit three pointers or whatever, because what you just have to go practice and get good, right? So whatever. Being loud doesn't mean you're good. It also doesn't mean you're bad. Well, the problem is that people who are good spend a lot of time working. And if you spend a lot of time working, that's time that you're not spending talking. Okay, so there is a correlation in that way. So if someone's spending all day every day on blue sky, they're probably not very good, right? And that just makes sense. It's just commonsensical. How we doing? We finished already. 14 fails. That's basically what I expected. We need to re-record a few tests because I changed some timing on some stuff. All right, we got to finish this, and then I can go out and have fun. Oh, let's run the manifest. Manifest. If Kamala Harris had won, you wouldn't be allowed to use the word manifest anymore. All right, do we do a little bit of a YOLO? I don't know here. How you can still use the word Endian. Interesting. I hadn't considered Endian getting banned. I mean, I suppose since we are at, you know, in the case of other words, we're definitely at the point where words that kind of vaguely remind people of the bad word have been banned for all practical purposes. So, there are quite a few words in English that you can't say that have totally normal definitions that are just regular words because they're a little bit too close to naughty words, right? That people would have said, 20 years ago and not thought twice about it. Like, that's definitely true right now. I don't know what to do. I don't see any like breakthrough baller moves here. I mean, at least if we get rid of this two, we're set up for the 3 4 5 6 to go, but we can't really get it immediately. And blue jack doesn't really. So even though that's tempting, I don't want to go that way. Oh, the 6 5 4, I think. So we put 6 5 4, we flip it so the four is down again. We lift the three, we put 3 4 5 6, 11 on the 12, 654 on the 3. And then we put back down the blue 3. And then we've got 3 1-baggers in this. I'm just going to do this because it's time to go out dancing. It's time to go out dancing. So we're going to do this, that, that. And you know what? I mean, we might as well do this. Now we're down to 1-bagger, which is very scary. Oh, we could at least do this, right? I mean, that's something. Very precarious position. Not looking good though. Not looking good. Does anyone see anything? Do I follow an algorithm when I didn't know? How hard is it to learn this game? You remember your dad used to play it? I don't think your dad used to play this game. He maybe used to play a game kind of like this game. But this is a different game. There are many games like it, but this one is mine, so to speak. Oh, I see a thing. I see a thing. I see a thing. I see a thing. Check that out. Check that out, baby. All right. I might do another YOLO to pop 4 through 8. Well, let's do this first. Oh, yeah, let's do it. Let's do the YOLO. Let's do the YOLO. YOLO County, California. And then we'll do this. Then we'll do this. And then we'll do this. And then this. And then this. And then this. Okay, so a little bit dangerous because we have 1-bagger and we could put it down on here on this 8. And then the game's kind of over. Okay, let's do this. Then we get another 1-bagger. That's fine. So now we do this. And then we do this. Easy clap. Easy clap. Oh, we could have done that before. That's fine. Someone in chat's like, do the red flip. Do the red flip. Do a barrel roll. Do a barrel roll. We won, everybody. We won. All right. GG's. All right. We're going to start running the scripts. Of course. We can't delete the directory because I've got tabs open in it. Lol. All right. The one person of you who is in the playtesting, this build will go up, as soon as it uploads, like in the next 15 minutes or something. Hopefully I didn't break nothing. Thank you, everybody. And we'll do some more programming streams soon. Good night.